This video discusses my expectations for Project 4, the Formatting Analysis Memo. This project is the one that gives students the most trouble in my classes, so I want you to make sure that you read through everything and listen all the way through this video so that you understand what I'm looking for. We begin as usual with the video, student learning objectives, and what you need to read. I go on to give you some information on using the library remotely and on accessing scholarly journal articles, how to use them, and find what you're looking for. I've included prior student work samples, as well as work that I have done on this project myself. For this project, you are going to be creating a memo. So the first step is structuring a memo that looks like a memo. The second part of this is what you'll be writing about in the memo. In this memo, you are going to be comparing the formatting of two different scholarly journal articles. The trick here, however, is that both of those articles need to come from the same journal, a different issue published in a different month, but the same journal. The easiest way to begin this is to start off with something that interests you. Find an article that has something to do with your degree plan or something that you're interested in, and pull that article from a scholarly journal. Let's say, for example, that you pull that from the Journal of Physics. The next thing you need to do is find some other article on any topic that is also from the Journal of Physics, or whatever journal you choose. It must be a different issue of the same journal. The articles should not be about the same thing. In fact, if you try to find articles covering the same topic, you're going to give yourself an unnecessary headache. Make sure that you have two different articles from the same journal. Once you have those two articles, you need to look at how they're laid out on the page. Do they use a serif font, a sans serif font? Do they use columns? Do they use headers and subheaders with italics and bold? How do they lay it out to present the information? Once you know these things, you'll be ready to create your memo. And you have to have those lines up top to who is your audience. It's not me. Carbon copy, who else might need to see it or be interested in this. From should be your own name. Date should be the assignment due date. And regarding should be your title. It should talk about what you're doing here, and it should not be the title of the assignment. It should not say Formatting Analysis Memo. In the body of your memo, you need to have several sections. The first is the introduction. This is where you're going to introduce the first article, including its authors and date of publication, and then briefly, in 2 to 3 sentences, discuss what it's about. In a second paragraph, you'll introduce the second article, including its authors and date of publication, and then again briefly discuss what that article is about. If you're pulling two articles from the same year, you might want to include the issue number for each one so that it's very clear that they came from different issues. The next section will be Article 1, Intended Audience. This is where you discuss why the article was written, who it was written for, what type of language they use, what they expect their audience to already know before they begin reading the article. Is it for general audiences? Is it for people who are very trained and have much education on the topic? What evidence do they prefer? Do they use charts, graphs, images, etc.? Those are the things that you're going to talk about in the intended audience section. You also need to have Article 1 description of the author or authors. This can be difficult to find information for. Don't forget to check things like social media or their university's website. You need to give a description of who these people are. Now, many scholarly articles will have 10, 15, or more authors included, but for the purposes of this assignment, you may pretend that whatever article you're using only has the first 5. Authors on these scholarly journals are usually listed in the order of how much they contributed to the study, so those first 5 will be the first 5 who are most important anyway. Make sure you include what knowledge they have, what experience they have, where they're from, why they're writing, and be very careful not to just copy and paste information here. Keep track also of the sites where you find any information that you include, because you will need to include those in a references section at the end. The next section should be the longest one in your memo. It will tell me about the formatting of the text. This is where you very literally analyze what you see on the page. There's a list of questions here that can help you make sure you're paying attention to what you need to and looking for the things you need to find. But keep in mind the main point here is how is the article formatted. For Article 2, you'll need to do the same thing. Give me the intended audience, the description of the author or authors, the formatting of the text. After that, let's talk about the results. Were there similarities or differences? They should almost always be precisely the same unless there have been many years between your first and second article. If there were any differences, what were they? What documentation style did they use? Is it APA? Is it Chicago? See if you can figure it out. The next section is your conclusion, and this is where you tell me what you've learned about your scholarly discourse community and writing in your discipline. It's where you can let me know if you feel a bit more confident in editing articles that are published in this field or helping a friend who is trying to get their article published. Do you feel like this will help you in your course of study? And if so, how? Finally, you do need a works cited or a references page where you list both the articles plus any research that you did into who the authors are. Use the formatting or style of your choice here, whether it's APA, MLA, Chicago, whatever. Don't just give me a list of links. If you give me just a list of links, you could lose up to 20 points from your grade automatically. I need more information than that. Finally, keep in mind that this may be longer than a couple of pages, but it also shouldn't be 15 or 20 pages. Keep the length relevant to what you're talking about. Use reasonable size fonts. Remember your margins. This is something you're preparing for print. And do not simply just summarize the articles and talk about what they're about. This is not for that purpose. The purpose of this memo is to tell someone else how to format if they are submitting to that journal. As always, if you have any questions, please do email me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.